Hey guys, so it's been a few days since I have posted a video. It's been like a week. I just took a little bit of a break because I've been dealing with a lot of traumatic things in my life and a bit of a relapse in my own mental health, I think. I'm doing a lot better. I learned a little bit more about myself, actually a lot more about myself, and I'm definitely not going to make the same mistakes that I've made this past week just because it was actually a very, very good learning experience for me, so... Anyways, I wanted to talk about something that has been pretty apparent with me for a while is that with DMT, I'm finding it a lot harder to actually go through with it now, I think. I want to talk about what possibly could be making the experience harder for me. I remember when I was 17, when I first started using it, it was not very scary to me at all. It was very magical and very eye-opening and all of that stuff. Not to say that it isn't eye-opening now, but it's just getting to the point where I always respond in a lot of fear, and I have to brace myself for the experience. And it doesn't always happen that way. Sometimes the experience can be rather tame and even pleasant, but for a while now, it's been more consistently a trying experience or something that I'm almost a bit worrisome to be able to go through it. And the last one that I had, it was getting pretty scary in the beginning, and I thought that it was going to get really scary, but afterwards it kind of mellowed off into a state where it was less I guess scary for me. And I don't exactly know what has changed in my consciousness, I guess. So right now I'm just kind of trying to pinpoint that for you guys. I also would want to know if other people experience a similar progression where it gets easy, or it becomes it's first easy and then it becomes hard. I know that when I first started taking mushrooms, it was pretty easy for me, and then I experienced the bad trip scenario stuff, and then it became like, oh wow, this can actually be very scary if you take too much and are not prepared for it. So, but after those experiences, and then I had my level 5 experiences, the complete dissolving of reality and all of that, and meeting the Godhead and all that, that stuff was a type of death experience, and then I realized, okay, yeah, this has a relationship with death and passing on to the other side, or at least the metaphor for that. But I got a bit accustomed to being able to handle that. I was able to go through that with relatively no fear. It would be still a trying experience for me, but I would enjoy having to go through it. I would find it something that is very fascinating towards me and something that's really worth going through. And then I was getting into DMT, and it was getting easier in terms of like the breakthrough. I didn't find it too terrifying. It was only when I really started to get into oral DMT heavy doses that I was starting to develop a bit of a fear response to it, or a response that was anxiety producing. And this is probably just due to the intensity of the experience. I know that once I had my psychotic episode and was going through huge oral DMT experiences throughout that time, I was experiencing very intense kind of death experiences, but since I was in such a traumatized state at that point, I was able to go through it, even though it was trying for me and very hard. But now that I'm more experienced with all that stuff's in my past, I noticed that if I try to do oral DMT, it's extremely hard for me. I know you guys watched the video that has a lot, I think it was like 31K views or something. And that one was one of my most difficult oral DMT experiences, where I almost hung up my gloves and said, you know, I've had enough. I can't go through that again. And I still haven't taken oral DMT since that. if I do ever take it again, it'll probably be at a low dose, just because some people have been telling me that it's likely that if I try a somewhat high dose, I'm just going to be thrown back into that same scenario, and it's going to be very exhausting for me to go through that again. And I believe that they're probably right about that. I don't like to admit that that might be the case, because I always find that it's a defeat for me. It's a kind of an ego thing that I don't really want to say that I'm too scared or too chicken to go through it, but it gets to a point where you just have to humble yourself and not use use it as some sort of verification of your ego and how strong and willing to take on difficulty you are, because I guess that everyone has their limits. No one's perfect. And for me, I'm really learning more about my limits. Oddly enough, 4-ACO DMT doesn't really cause much of a fear response for me, so I can probably take pretty high doses of that and not have to worry about it. But there's something about DMT orally and even now smoked that just seems so scary for me. But the smoked DMT I'm more likely to explore, just because it's shorter lasting. So even if I am going into complete terror or whatever, it won't last that long, even though it feels like it's going to last forever. And that's always like the main fear, is that this is never going to end. You know, that's the thing. You're just waiting for it to stop. You're just like, okay, this is really cool and it's really fascinating, but I don't want to be here because it's really intense, and I don't want to go to a place where there's no turning back. And I'm starting to get that feeling more often. It doesn't happen all the time, but it happens more often that I'm a little more wary, or a little bit more worried to do it consecutively. I feel like it has to be something that I'm in a proper state of mind. And right now I can't like do any drugs right now, just because I've been going through such emotional turmoil, and I've been dealing with loss and things. So it's been a rough week for me. I think it'll get better. I've really focused on what I want to do, and I've been really laser focused on building my social media platform on like Instagram for art and things. So I've been really pounding out the art, trying to get more traction, and it's been working well. Like I've been getting, I got like 80 followers in the last 2 days. So it's been going really well. There's a lot of tattoo artists are really taking a liking to my work. And on that note, I should say that I'm planning on going into trying to find a tattoo apprenticeship. I've just been building up my portfolio, doing a lot of portraits and trying to get better at that, so I can have a really strong portfolio. So once I finish my last portrait, which is a portrait of Robert Downey Jr., which is going amazingly, by the way. I'm really proud of how this is turning out. I was getting discouraged by my ability to draw really good portraits, because I guess I'm a little too critical of myself. I always see people that are drawing amazing photographic, you can't even tell if it's a photo or a drawing, and I always feel a bit intimidated by that. But I just know that the experience isn't quite there yet, so that's why I just need to put more time in it. But I'm an extremely quick learner. Anytime that I make a new attempt, there's massive leaps in my technical improvements. So I think I'm going to get there very quickly. I got there extremely quickly with piano. So yeah, I'm pretty much just going to juggle those two crafts as much as I can, piano and art. And I don't really want to be a piano teacher or anything. That doesn't really interest me. And the only real way to make a living off of piano is through teaching, and other than that, that would be concert pianist. But I would say that that's something that I would definitely want to be, but that's a lot further down the road. You would have to have a pretty big following to interest people to be able to like come out to your shows and whatnot. So that's definitely going to be for a future thing. So I'm thinking for the moment, I'm probably going to pursue this tattooing thing, because I think that it's something that I really want to do, and it's something that I'll actually be happy to get into, because I hate my job right now. Every time I go in, and I just dread that I have to waste my time doing this instead of doing something that's actually going to push me forward in my career. So I'll show you guys the portrait of Robert Downey Jr. that I've been working on. It's gonna be done. I just gotta finish the face around the shading and the facial hair and the hair and whatnot. But I got all the facial features down, and I've been using a different technique on freehanding. It was by a master portrait artist called Nathan Folks, and he basically has this really good technique on how to map out the face geometry so that you can always get a very nice portrait out of it. And now I don't have to waste time doing the grid technique. I can just start drawing right away and get the basic geometry of the face down, and then it turns out pretty wicked. So I'll let you guys see that. And I'll see you guys in the next video, so have a good night.